Hey guys, welcome back to part two of section 3A, percentages for quant reasoning and skills. And so we're going to go through some applications now, word problems and stuff with percentages, and show you how to look at those. We've talked about the is over of is percent out of 100 concept, and so that's how we'll be solving most of these problems. An example here on the first page. A baseball pitcher won 80% of his games. He pitched 35 games. How many games did he win? And so we have to translate that to that whole idea of is and of. So 80% of 35 is what, right? Usually, of is the whole thing. So he pitched 35 games. What percentage of those games did he win? 80 out of 100, x over 35, okay? And so we multiply across, you get 100x is equal to 2,800, and then divide 100 into 2,800, and you get x equals 28, okay? There are a few more examples here over the next page or two if you'd like to read through those examples, okay? You have to read them very closely, right? 28 students in a class, 16 of those students are men. What percent are women? So they tried to throw you off a little bit here. 16 of them are men. What percent are women? Well, you have to find the number of women before you can find the percentage of women, right? So subtract 28 minus 16 men, you get 12 women. 12 is what percent of 28? Again, solving this, 28x equals 1,200. Divide by 28. Now, we end up, when you divide that by 28, we end up with 42.85%. If you round to the nearest hundredth, it's 85. If you round to the nearest tenth, it's 42.9%, which is what the directions said, 42.9% of the class. Okay, so you guys can read over these other examples yourself. I would like you to go to problem number 1 and 2. I want you to try both of those. I want you to try problem number 1 and problem number 2. Read very closely, read carefully, write them out. Eventually you're going to have is over of is percent out of 100, solve and go. All right, so pause the video and try those two problems. Okay, so a student earned a grade of 80% on a math test that had 20 problems. There were 20 total problems. That's probably the of. All right, let's read further. How many problems on this test did the student answer correctly? So in other words, what is 80% of 20? That's another way to think of this. All right, so you've got 80 out of 100 for your percent out of 100. You've got x over 20. Is over of, cross multiply, you get 100x equals 1,600, divide by 100, and you get x equals 16 problems correct to get an 80%. And you could do that, right? 16 out of 20, you know how to find your average. Take 16 divided by 20, multiply by 100%, you'd get 80. So you can check that out, okay? Number 2. 36 carpenters are in a crew. On a certain day, 29 were present. What percent showed up for work? Well, once again, the bigger number here, remember I talked about if we're talking about money or change of something like that, then percentages bigger than 100 makes sense. But when you're talking about physical stuff, you can't have a percentage bigger than 100. So this is going to have to be 29 is out of 36. Another way to think of is out of. There are 29 people there working today out of a total of 36. Maybe somebody was sick, maybe somebody called in, maybe they didn't need everybody, who knows. But 29 out of 36 is what percent out of 100? Cross multiply, you get 36x equals 2,900. Divide both sides by 36. So I get x equals, plug it in my calculator, 80.555, so that's 80.6 percent. Don't forget the percentage symbol because we're looking for percents. Okay? So this worksheet again is in D2L, and you can access these problems all the way through to 12. Okay? They're all relatively straightforward. Just make sure you're putting things in the right order and you should be okay. All right? One last concept I want to talk about, and that is the concept of percentage change. Okay, so we're talking about percentage change now, not absolute change. Absolute change is just the amount that something changes, but percentage change has a formula for it. So percent change is found by taking the new value minus the old value. That's how you find your absolute change, right? The new minus the old. And then you divide by the old and multiply by 100%. So new minus old is the difference, the absolute difference. And then you take the difference compared to the original price, the old number, whatever it is, and multiply by 100%. All right, so let me show you. Number one, a remote control car costs $60 and then it's on sale for $45. By what percentage was the price reduced? So the percentage is based off of the old price, right? What percentage of the original price has it been reduced by? How much was it reduced? 45 minus 60 will tell you the reduction. We'll talk about the sign here in a minute. Then divide by 60 and multiply by 100%. The original price was 60, and so we get negative 15 over 60 and then times 100%. And if you plug that in your calculator, you get negative 25%. Now be careful, that is not your answer, because the question says by what percentage was the price reduced. Why is this a negative? Because the price decreased. You don't want to say the price was reduced or decreased negatively, because that would be like a double negative basically. And so by what percentage was the price reduced? The answer there is 25%. It was reduced by 25%. And again, that's why you got a negative number, because you were reducing the price. If it says percentage increase, you'll get a positive number. If it says percentage decrease, you'll get a negative number, but you don't need the sign because it already says percent decrease. Now, if it just says what's the percent change, then you need a sign, right? Change is neutral, up or down. And so if you say percent change, then you'd leave the negative to indicate you went down. But when it asks for percentage decrease or percent reduced or whatever, then that's already, that terminology is already telling you it's a negative, and so you leave the negative out of it. Okay? Why don't y'all try number 2? You guys try number 2. Pause the video, check out number 2, and see what you can get. Okay? So, what's your change? You started with 2,500, it's up to 4,100. So the new is 4,100 minus 2,500. And then we divide that by 2,500. Multiply by 100%. Remember, when you're doing this on your calculator, these guys need to be in parentheses, or else your calculator will make some interesting choices. So make sure these, if you're typing this all in at one time, right, we'll put left parentheses 4,100 minus 2,500, right parentheses divided by 2,500, and then multiply that by 100%. And you get a 64% increase. Okay? So that's the only other concept here in section 3A besides just is over of type stuff. This is percent change. And again, percent change is you find the absolute difference, new minus old, on top. You divide it by the old, multiply by 100%. It's the same basic formula, where is the new minus old and of is the old, and then the percent would have been over here, and we just moved it to the other side, right? So it's not really a new formula, it's just a new use of our old formula. But the is part is the difference between your old and your new, and you got to make sure you get that in the right order. Okay, so check these out as well, and we'll see you later. Thanks.